Every generation chases the same obsession. How do you get rich the fastest? Most people spend their whole lives chasing it and still stay broke. Not because the answer is hidden, but because it's so obvious the wealthy assume you'll never notice it. Because the moment you do, you stop building their empire and start building your own. We're told money goes to the smartest or the hardest workers. If effort made you wealthy, the people working the toughest jobs would be living like millionaires. They're not. Because money doesn't follow effort, it follows power. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Most people will never get rich, not because they're stupid or unlucky, but because they're playing the wrong game. They cling to safety, clock in for 40 years, stash a little in savings, and hope one day it magically turns into freedom. Machiavelli would laugh at that. He'd say that kind of life isn't security, it's a slow, polite prison. Wealth doesn't come to the ones who tiptoe. It comes to the ones who move like they have something to conquer. Playing safe keeps you stuck. Bold action is what makes you break through. If you look closely at anyone who seems to blow up overnight, you'll see the same pattern. They weren't lucky. They were strategic. They made moves other people were too scared to make. At moments, other people were too distracted to notice. In this video, I'm going to break down exactly how a Machiavellian thinker approaches money, power, and speed, so you can stop surviving in someone else's system and start accelerating toward your own fortune. Let's start with the biggest lie you've been sold about money: that if you just work hard enough for long enough, you'll eventually become rich. Look around you. The people working the longest hours, sweating in the heat, grinding through night shifts, are rarely the ones living in penthouses or flying private. The world quietly proves, every single day, that effort alone doesn't equal wealth. Machiavelli would tell you why. In his world, the man who swings the sword is never as powerful as the man who decides where the sword falls. Wealth doesn't rush to the person who works the hardest. It rushes to the person who controls how work is used. That's the first Machiavellian law of fast riches. Control creates wealth. When you trade time for money, you are a resource. When you control time, people, and decisions, you become the one who collects. Think of it like this. If you're paid by the hour, your income is capped by your energy. There's only so much your body and mind can handle in a day. But if you're paid because you own a system, your income is capped only by how large that system can grow. Machiavelli didn't write about jobs, he wrote about power, and power is what turns small moves into big money. A prince doesn't ask, "How can I earn more per day?" He asks, "How can I position myself so that every day others make me richer?" That's the difference between the poor mindset and the Machiavellian mindset. The poor mindset says, "I need a raise." The Machiavellian mindset says, "I need leverage." Leverage can be a business, a brand, a network, a piece of technology, or even a reputation so strong that people line up to work with you. It's anything that lets you make one decision and get the benefit of 1,000 actions. Humans are wired to follow certainty, and Machiavelli understood that. He knew that when someone appears confident, decisive, and in control, people naturally fall into line behind them. They give them their time, their effort, and eventually their money. That's why the fastest path to riches is never found in the role of the obedient worker. The obedient worker becomes invisible. They get thanked, maybe, but they don't get rich. The one who gets rich is the person who builds the structure that obedient workers plug into. Now imagine this in your own life. You spend decades showing up on time, doing what you're told, maybe even doing it well. You retire with just enough to survive, if that. On paper, you were secure, but in practice, you spent your best years building someone else's castle brick by brick. That's not security, That's slavery with benefits. Machiavelli would say, you never learned the real game. Because the real game is not to be the loyal servant, it's to become the one who designs the kingdom. The wealthy have designed society in a way that feels natural. Get good grades, get a good job, work hard, stay loyal. But whose interests does that really serve? The ones who own the businesses, the systems, the platforms. Every hour you trade for a paycheck is an hour that quietly builds someone else's empire. If you want the fastest path to wealth, you have to step out of that role. You have to stop asking, how can I work harder? And start asking, where can I gain power? Power in money terms means influence over decisions, control over assets, and the ability to move resources with your choices. So what does this look like in practice? It might mean starting a business instead of staying stuck in a job that goes nowhere. It might mean building an audience online, so your words and ideas reach thousands instead of 10 people in a meeting room. It might mean learning skills that let you direct capital, not just earn a salary, sales, negotiation, leadership, strategy. A Machiavellian thinker doesn't just learn how to do a task. He learns how to control the system that tasks live inside. He asks questions like, what do people in this industry depend on? And how can I own the part that everyone else relies on? Maybe that's a key distribution channel, a technology, a brand, or even just the trust of a specific audience. The more people depend on you, the more wealth is forced to flow through you. And here's where the speed comes in. When you shift from labor to power, from worker to architect, your results stop being linear. A worker's income grows slowly, step by step. A strategist's income can jump in leaps because each new decision, each new relationship, each new asset multiplies the effect of everything they've already built. That's why some people seem to leapfrog years ahead in just a few moves. It isn't magic, it's leverage. Advanced Machiavellian thinkers go even further. They don't just build systems, they capture existing ones. They buy into businesses that are already working. They negotiate control over assets that are already producing cash. They take over attention that's already gathered somewhere and redirect it toward their own goals. They understand that building from scratch is only one option. Often, the fastest way to rise is to step into something that's already moving and steer it. So, if you're serious about getting rich fast, stop romanticizing grind culture and start studying power. Ask yourself, where am I a servant, and where can I become a strategist? Where am I trading time, and where can I build leverage? Where am I invisible, and where can I become the person others depend on? The moment you stop seeing yourself as just a worker and start acting like a prince, owning systems, directing effort, controlling value flows, is the moment your relationship with money changes. From that point on, you're no longer just getting paid, you're getting rich. Now that you understand why power, not effort, is the engine of wealth, we need to talk about the accelerator, speed. Because even if you start thinking like a prince instead of a servant, you won't get rich fast if you move like everyone else. Machiavelli would tell you that most people are trapped in the wrong game from the very beginning. They live in survival mode. Survival mode is about getting by, paying bills, avoiding risk, and holding on to what little they have. It feels responsible, but it quietly kills ambition. In survival mode, your highest goal is not to lose, and a person whose only goal is not to lose will never win big. The rich, the ones who rise quickly, don't play for survival, they play for domination. Domination mode asks a different question, not how do I last, but how far can I expand? A prince doesn't wake up wondering how to scrape through the month. He wakes up asking how to extend his reach, his territory, his influence. That simple shift destroys the slow, cautious mindset most people are stuck in. Survival makes you timid. Domination demands boldness. Machiavelli compared fortune to a force that rewards the aggressive, the decisive, the ones who are willing to push when others hesitate. If you want to get rich fast, you cannot tiptoe your way there. You have to move as if every delay is a threat, because it is. The greatest killer of speed is not failure, it's hesitation. Think about how most people approach their dreams. I'll start when I have more money. I'll start when I have more time. I'll start when things calm down. Those words sound reasonable, but they are a death sentence for speed. Tomorrow turns into next month. Next month turns into next year. And before they know it, 10 years have passed and nothing has changed. Machiavelli wouldn't respect that. He'd say the moment you see an opening, you strike, even if you don't feel fully ready. Because guess what? You will never feel fully ready. The people who move fastest aren't the ones with perfect plans. They're the ones who refuse to wait for perfect conditions. Look at any market, any trend, any wave of opportunity. Who captures the most wealth? It's almost always the first movers, the ones who step in before everything is clear, before the rules are fully written. They accept uncertainty and move anyway. By the time the cautious majority finally feel comfortable, the early players have already planted their flags and taken the best positions. That's why, from the outside, fast success looks like luck. People see someone explode onto the scene and say, "Wow, that person came out of nowhere." But they didn't. They were watching, preparing, and when they saw the moment, they acted with a speed most people aren't capable of. That is Machiavellian timing. Not random gambling, but fast, calculated strikes. Underneath this is a deeper psychological truth. Money follows certainty. Humans are naturally drawn to leaders who know what they want and move toward it without flinching. When you make bold decisions, people notice. When you commit to a direction, instead of living in endless maybe, people start to trust you. Investors, partners, clients, followers, they all lean toward whoever radiates conviction. That trust becomes leverage, and leverage is what turns small actions into big results. A single decision, backed by certainty, can unlock resources, introductions, and opportunities that would have taken you years to access on your own. But what happens if you refuse to move boldly? The consequences are brutal. You become invisible. No one bets on the person who hesitates. No one follows the person who constantly waits for one more sign, one more guarantee. While you're overthinking, someone else is already executing. While you're rationalizing why it's not the right time, someone else is claiming the spot you wanted. And by the time you finally decide to act, the chance you were waiting for has disappeared. In the game of wealth, hesitation is the silent thief that robs you of speed. So what's the alternative? You have to rewire your mind. Every time you feel yourself pulling back, delaying, making excuses, you need to ask a different question. What would a prince do here? Not a peasant, not an employee. A prince, the person who wants to rise the fastest, doesn't choose the option that feels safest. He chooses the option that advances his position. That doesn't mean reckless stupidity. It means bold, strategic action taken sooner than your fear is comfortable with. Practically, this means creating a bias for action in your life. If an idea excites you, you don't sit on it for weeks. You test it within 24 hours. You send the message, you make the call, you build the first version, you put something into the world that can be judged, improved, or rejected. Most people get stuck at the thinking stage and never graduate to the doing stage. A Machiavellian operator treats thought as the warm-up, not the finish line. Another key is how you treat fear. The average person sees fear and stops. They interpret fear as a warning to retreat. A prince sees fear and leans in. Fear is a sign that you're near something powerful, something that could genuinely move your life forward. If you never feel fear, it means you're never near any real opportunity. So instead of asking, "How do I avoid fear?" start asking, "How do I act in spite of it?" The moment you move while afraid, you separate yourself from 90% of people instantly. Speed also comes from where you choose to play. Some arenas are dead, they're slow, saturated, and stagnant. You can work hard in them your whole life and never see explosive gains. Fast wealth tends to be built in fast-changing environments: technology, media, finance, emerging industries, places where the rules are still being written and the old guard hasn't locked everything down yet. Machiavelli admired rulers who positioned themselves at crossroads of power, where trade, conflict, and opportunity converged. In the modern world, those crossroads are digital platforms, new markets, cutting-edge tools. If you're stuck in a slow lane, no amount of speed in your legs will matter. You need to move to a faster road. And remember, you don't have to do this alone. One of the biggest misunderstandings around speed is thinking you must move faster by personally doing more. That's not Machiavellian speed. Real speed comes from controlling the movement of others. Generals don't fight every battle themselves. They coordinate armies. CEOs don't write every email. They direct teams. Influencers don't talk to every person individually. They broadcast to thousands at once. If you want to rise fast, you need to learn how to recruit, persuade, and direct others so that your vision moves forward even when you are not physically pushing every inch. That's how you multiply your speed tenfold. Now, here's how the world reacts when you decide to live this way. At first, they'll laugh. They'll say you're unrealistic, impulsive, doing too much, moving too fast. Then, when your moves start working, they'll shift from laughter to envy. They'll say you got lucky. They'll rewrite history and act as if your results were somehow guaranteed. And soon after that, something interesting happens. The same people who doubted you start trailing behind you, copying you, asking you for advice, wanting to be associated with your momentum. This pattern is predictable. They question you, then they resent you, and eventually they try to copy you. Machiavelli would tell you not to be disturbed by this. It's a sign you're playing the game correctly. If no one is criticizing your speed, you're probably not moving fast enough to matter. So imagine where this leads. You stop waiting. You stop thinking of wealth as a slow, distant possibility. Instead, you choose a bold move you've been postponing, and you do it now. Not next month, not someday, but now. You place yourself in a hotter arena. You act on your ideas within hours, not years. You treat fear as a signal to advance, not retreat. You build influence so that other people's energy feeds your vision. Suddenly, you're no longer just working, you're advancing. You're no longer just surviving, you're expanding. That is Machiavellian speed. Prepared, decisive, unafraid of striking before the crowd. And in the world of money, that kind of speed doesn't just move you forward, it can catapult you into a level of wealth that looks impossible to those still stuck waiting for the perfect moment that never comes. Now that you understand why power is the engine and speed is the accelerator, we need to talk about the gearbox that multiplies everything. Leverage. Because without leverage, even a powerful, fast-moving person is still limited by their own two hands. Leverage is how you make one move and get the effect of 10, 100, even 1,000. Machiavelli saw this clearly in the way rulers operated. A wise prince doesn't swing the sword himself. He commands an army. He doesn't collect taxes door to door. He builds a system that delivers wealth to him automatically. In the modern world, leverage shows up in four main forms: money, people, knowledge, and attention. Money leverage is using other people's money to fuel your rise instead of waiting decades to save your own. The poor see debt as a trap. The rich see capital as a weapon. They don't say, "I can't start until I save enough." They ask, "Who can I partner with? Who can I convince to back me? Whose resources can I direct?" When used recklessly, money destroys you. When used strategically, it lets you compress years of progress into months. People leverage is just as powerful. Alone, you move slowly, no matter how smart or driven you are. With people, you move at the speed of an army. Every great empire, every large company, every viral movement is built on the backs of many. Machiavelli knew this. He wrote about alliances, loyalists, and followers, because he understood that ruling is not about doing everything yourself, it's about orchestrating others. In your life, that might look like employees, collaborators, freelancers, or even just a tight network of allies who share opportunities with you. The more you can inspire, direct, or coordinate other people, the faster your ideas turn into reality. Then there's knowledge leverage. This is not just about having information, it's about having the right information before others do, and acting on it. Think of the investors who understood tech before it went mainstream, or the entrepreneurs who saw the internet, crypto, AI, or social media long before the crowd. By the time everyone else gets it, the leveraged players are already in position, already profiting. Machiavelli admired leaders who saw shifts before they happened, who made alliances and moves that only looked obvious in hindsight. If you want to get rich fast, you have to become that kind of person, the one who is always one step ahead, always learning, always ready to act on what they've learned. And finally, attention leverage, the most underestimated weapon of the modern age. Attention is currency. If you can capture and hold attention, you can turn it into money with frightening speed. That's why influencers, creators, and strong personal brands can appear to rise out of nowhere. What they really did was accumulate leverage in the form of followers, trust, and visibility. Once people know you, like you, or are simply fascinated by you, you can channel that attention into sales, partnerships, and opportunities. Machiavelli would have loved this era because appearances have more power than ever. A strong image, a compelling story, a consistent presence can move more money than a decade of silent hard work. Here's the tragedy. Most people completely ignore leverage. They try to do everything alone. They say, "I'll save up myself. I'll work late. I'll slowly build." What they don't realize is that this is the mindset of a servant trying to escape the castle by dragging one stone at a time. A prince uses pulleys, horses, and men. He uses the tools of power. Machiavelli would call the lone wolf approach weakness disguised as pride. The man who insists on moving alone moves like a snail. The man who multiplies himself through money, people, knowledge, and attention moves like a storm. Underneath leverage is a psychological truth. Humans are drawn to strength and momentum. When you appear to be going somewhere, people want to be part of it. They want to invest, join, collaborate, follow. That's why your first task isn't to beg for leverage. It's to become someone leverage wants to attach itself to. Be the person who is clearly serious, clearly moving, clearly building. When you radiate direction and conviction, money, talent, and attention start to orbit you. That's when you can pick and choose the best forms of leverage instead of chasing scraps. The cost of ignoring this is brutal. If you try to rely on your own effort alone, you will burn out. You will watch younger, less skilled people pass you. Not because they're better, but because they understood leverage sooner. They raised capital while you tried to save. They built a team while you insisted on doing it all yourself. They built an audience while you stayed invisible. You'll tell yourself they were lucky, but deep down you'll know They just played a different game. So what's the Machiavellian move? You must change the question you ask. Stop asking, "How can I do this?" and start asking, "Who or what can help me do this faster?" That one shift turns you from a worker into a commander. The worker thinks in terms of tasks. The commander thinks in terms of resources. The worker asks, "How many hours will this take?" The commander asks, "Who already has what I need, and how do I bring them into my vision?" Practically, that might mean taking on a smart investor instead of waiting years to afford your next step. It might mean partnering with someone who has an audience while you provide the product or system. It might mean paying for high-level knowledge instead of wasting years trying to figure everything out alone. It definitely means getting loud, posting, speaking, networking, writing, showing your work, because no matter how brilliant your ideas are, leverage can't find you if no one knows you exist. Once you start using leverage, something almost magical happens. The world begins to treat you differently. Doors open faster. People answer messages they would have ignored before. Opportunities that once seemed unreachable suddenly start appearing in your inbox. Not because the universe blessed you, but because perception has shifted. You're now seen as someone rising, someone powerful, someone worth betting on. Perception becomes its own form of leverage. But here's the advanced reality most people don't want to hear. When you rise quickly with leverage, you don't just attract fans, you attract enemies. Machiavelli warned that power always creates resistance. The moment you start commanding resources, attention, and influence, you threaten those who are comfortable where they are. Jealous rivals, old friends who liked you better small, competitors who see you as a threat, they will appear. They will gossip, criticize, and try to pull you down. The weak crumble under this pressure. The Machiavellian mind expects it. He reads envy as a signal. I am now dangerous enough to be noticed. If no one resents your progress is probably too small. The key is not to avoid this resistance, but to build a position so strong that it can't touch you. That's what true wealth and power look like, not just having money, but having a fortress made of leverage. Money leverage that gives you options, buffers, and the ability to walk away. People leverage in the form of loyal allies, teams, and followers who benefit when you benefit. Knowledge leverage that keeps you ahead of incoming threats and changes. Attention leverage that lets you speak and instantly shift how thousands think and act. When you have all four, you're not just rich, you're hard to move, hard to erase, hard to replace. Others rely on you more than you rely on them, and that is the true Machiavellian victory. So stop trying to drag your life forward with your bare hands. Identify where leverage already exists around you and start taking control of it. Ask, whose money could I put to better use? Which people could I align with? What knowledge do I need to be ahead of the curve? Where can I capture attention and turn it into income? Because the fastest way to get rich is not to push harder on the same small wheel, it's to grab a bigger lever, pull once, and move 10 times further than the man who still believes that effort alone is enough. So when you strip everything down, the truth is simple. The fastest way to get rich isn't grinding harder at the bottom, it's learning to think like a Machiavellian prince at the top, using power, speed, and leverage together like weapons. Think of wealth like a massive stone blocking the path to the life you want. Most people stand there pushing with their bare hands, straining, sweating, barely moving it an inch. They tell themselves that if they just keep pushing long enough, they'll eventually break through. But the ones who rise fast don't push harder, they look for the lever. They understand that success is not just about effort, it's about position. If you want speed, you have to place yourself where leverage actually exists, in arenas, industries, and roles that scale. That's why so many modern fortunes are built in software, media, finance, and technology. Places where one decision, one product, or one message can reach millions without demanding millions of extra hours. Machiavelli would tell you to secure your position first, then apply pressure. Don't waste your boldness on dead ends. Standing in the wrong place with the right mindset still keeps you stuck. Speed isn't chaos or lottery ticket thinking. It's what happens when preparation meets opportunity and you have the nerve to move while everyone else stares. To outsiders, that looks like overnight success, but inside, it's years of sharpening the blade, then one clean strike. And make no mistake, Machiavellian boldness is not reckless gambling. It's taking risks that look wild to the crowd, but are calculated in your mind. The early investor who bets on a rising market before anyone else sees it, the founder who launches into a trend just as it's forming, the creator who builds an audience right where attention is about to flood in, they're not lucky. They're positioned, prepared, and precise. At a fundamental level, there are only a few ways to get rich quickly that actually last. You build or own something that can scale far beyond your personal effort. You control resources, systems, or platforms that other people desperately need, or you stand at a crossroads where opportunity constantly flows through and you take your slice every time it passes. That's how Machiavellian rulers operated in the past, owning ports, roads, banks, choke points where value had to pass. Today, those choke points might be payment systems, software platforms, communities, media channels, or any place where attention and money intersect. There's also a twist Machiavelli understood well. Sometimes the fastest way up is not to build all the power yourself, but to ride on someone else's first. Use alliances, plug into existing systems, attach your skills, your offer, or your brand to something that's already moving, and then outgrow it when the time is right. Why build every brick when you can walk through a door someone else already paid for? In money terms, that looks like partnerships, licensing deals, joint ventures, piggybacking on existing audiences or proven business models. And in the modern world, all of this is supercharged by perception. Machiavelli believed appearances often matter more than reality, and today that's truer than ever. If people see you as sharp, reliable, and powerful, they will treat you like you are, even before you feel that way yourself. A strong brand, a clear message, a visible presence can pull in opportunities at a pace that makes quiet, invisible hard work look like standing still. Influence attracts money. Perception opens doors before your bank account is ready. But here's the harsh part. Most people will never move like this because they worship comfort. They want approval. They want safety. They want everyone to clap for them while they stay exactly where they are. Machiavelli would call that a slave's mindset, polite, obedient, and powerless. If you want fast wealth, you cannot cling to the same priorities as everyone else. You have to be willing to feel misunderstood, to move before others agree, to act with conviction in the face of doubt. The game, in the end, boils down to three things: position, perception, and precision. Position is where you place yourself, what industry you're in, what role you play, what leverage you sit on. Stand in the wrong place, and no amount of hustle will create speed. Perception is how the world sees you, your reputation, your brand, your image as someone who is either forgettable or formidable. Get that right, and people send you opportunities instead of you begging for them. Precision is how and when you strike, how quickly you turn ideas into action, how accurately you choose your risks, how ruthlessly you cut what doesn't move you forward. Combine all three, and you don't just move faster, you look like you came out of nowhere. People will call you lucky, They'll say you were in the right place at the right time. They'll ignore the fact that you chose that place and moved at that time while they were still overthinking. That's the Machiavellian way. Engineer the conditions, then attack the opening with boldness. The fastest way to get rich is not to keep your head down and hope. It's to raise your head, study the power lines, position yourself where leverage lives, craft the perception of a leader, and strike with more precision and courage than the people around you. In the end, fortune still belongs to the bold, and as Machiavelli might whisper if he were alive today, the bold don't wait for wealth to find them. They corner it, command it, and collect it while everyone else is still asking for permission.